Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
Good evening. I'm Chinta Strausberg, producer and host of On the Case, and tonight I have a very special guest. But before I introduce her, I want to extend my sincere condolences to Congressman Danny K. Davis on the loss of his brother, Willie Davis, who was just 80 years old. He died 2 days ago, Wednesday, at his home on the South Side. So my prayers are with you, Congressman, and the family. Really sorry about that. But tonight, I have as my special guest Cook County Board President Toni Preckwinkle. And she is in a fight for this election that's coming up on March 17th. I want everyone to register to vote and to do so. And right now, we have early voting. So there's no excuse. Normally, primaries are low in attendance. Well, you see what happened when we didn't come out. Let's not make that mistake again, okay? So everyone vote. Please vote early. And I'd like to introduce Cook County Board President Toni Preckwinkle. Thank you so much for being on the case.
Thank you. Good evening, Chinta.
Good evening. Good evening. You are in a fight for your life now because there are other candidates. One you ran against 4 years ago, and that's Richard Boykin, and you soundly beat him, and he's running again. But the other one is Alderman Riley.
Brendan Riley.
Yes. And he took money from Trump, I understand. A lot of people call him Trumpy. A Trumper, rather. I'm sorry. So, I mean, are you running against President Trump or what now? What's going on here?
Well, Chinta, as you may know, I'm a history teacher by profession. And let me just say, this is a profoundly troubling moment in our country's history.
Yes.
Donald Trump has declared war on blue states, blue counties, and blue cities. He was in office only a couple weeks when he sued the governor, Governor Pritzker. He sued the mayor, and he sued me, alleging that we weren't supporting his efforts to enforce immigration laws. And they threatened to take away all of our federal funding. But really, this was about intimidation. It was to try to get us to work with ICE and the Border Patrol in the terrible things that they were doing in this country. And we didn't cave. We didn't cave. We stood up to them. We defended ourselves and our values. And the case got thrown out in the fall in federal court. But again, it was an effort to intimidate us. And then, of course, Trump sends ICE and the Border Patrol into Cook County to snatch people off our streets, to kidnap people, to send them to detention centers all over the country, to send them to gulags in foreign countries. And I issued an executive order. I said that you can't be in our hospitals, our clinics, our courthouses, our parking lots. I wish I could have forbidden them from being on our city streets and sidewalks. You know, they killed a young father in Broadview. They shot a young woman 5 times. She survived miraculously, bless her. And then they went to Minnesota and continued with their terror and chaos and killed a young mother and a VA nurse, a Veterans Administration nurse. You know, this is unprecedented in American history, the way in which the federal government has been weaponized against, as I said, blue states, blue counties, and blue cities. Absolutely. But it isn't just these assaults on our immigrant community. He's doing everything he can to dismantle President Obama's Affordable Care Act, to reduce access to health care and to reduce federal support for health care for Americans. They're making it harder to get Medicaid. And on the marketplace, where many people buy their insurance coverage, the premiums have not just increased, they've sometimes doubled because the federal government withdrew the subsidies. They no longer support Americans who are trying to get insurance on the marketplace. And they've reduced access to food stamps, again, by introducing work requirements, which sound reasonable until you understand that in Alabama, where they introduced work requirements for Medicaid, they did a subsequent study and 90% of the people would have been eligible if they'd dotted all their I's and crossed all their T's. It's just a way to reduce access to these programs with work requirements. And more recently, in the last couple of days, Illinois, along with a couple of other states in the country, blue states, of course, had their federal funding for behavioral health and HIV challenged.
Right.
And Kwame Raoul, our Attorney General, has sought a temporary restraining order to keep them from snatching these funds from us. But Donald Trump, as I said, has declared war on us, blue states, blue counties, and blue cities. Now, in the meantime, what I've been doing is trying to build a strong healthcare system, investing in public safety, and supporting small businesses, and trying to assist communities that are at the margins, that have been disinvested in, to be more prosperous and to help them with economic development. So I'm the only candidate in this race that's going to stand up to Donald Trump and defend our residents and the programs that they rely on.
Well, you're also the only candidate who has the experience of being familiar with legislation and proposing. I mean, you've been an alderman for what, 5 terms, was it? 4 terms?
Almost 20 years, 19 years as an alderman in the city of Chicago. And then since 2010, I've been president of the Cook County Board of Commissioners.
Right, but you had other jobs too.
I was a high school history teacher. Right. Early in my working life, I also worked in the city of Chicago when Harold Washington was mayor.
Well, you were a planner?
I was a planner. And then I worked for the Chicago Jobs Council, which is a coalition that supports organizations that do employment training work and advocated for working people.
Absolutely. So, I mean, to me, of the candidates running against you, I think you're the most qualified.
Well, thank you. What I say is that I have the experience to do the job and the courage to stand up to Donald Trump. And my opponent has neither.
Well, he's been compromised. He can't stand up to him. He has bowed to him. He's kissed his ring. My God, he took his moolah.
That's right. Well, he has taken contributions from Donald Trump. And right before Donald Trump was to be sworn in for his second term, he voted to weaken the city of Chicago's sanctuary city protections. All last year, when Trump's ICE and Border Patrol people were terrorizing communities in Cook County, he didn't say anything, not a peep out of him. And he also hasn't stood up to defend Medicaid or food stamps or the other programs that our residents rely on. So he is a profoundly compromised person, and there's no reason for anybody to believe he's going to stand up to Donald Trump, as I will.
Absolutely. So what do you think about what the president did yesterday with the greenhouse gases?
Well, this administration doesn't believe in science, whether it's negating longstanding scientific support for regulating carbon emissions, greenhouse gases, or their programs in the Department of Health and Human Services that call into question vaccines. Vaccines are lifesavers for our children. If you're old as I am, you had, childhood diseases, chickenpox, measles, mumps, and we can vaccinate our children and protect them from those diseases now. And Robert Kennedy, the head of the Cabinet Secretary for Health and Human Services, has called into question these basic vaccines that have saved so many of our young people's lives. So this is an anti-science administration, and it's profoundly disturbing.
And he's also anti-civil rights, anti-DEI, anti-everything that African Americans in particular have fought for so long. And the measles, by the way, Cook County has had measles breakout, but it's been all across. I looked at the map a few minutes ago, and it's all over the United States.
Right. That's because the federal government's not taking an active role in encouraging people to be vaccinated. We almost eliminated measles in this country, and now it's come back because of the vaccine skepticism that's been promoted by this administration. It's going to cost people their lives. It's simple, plain and simple. It's going to cost people their lives.
And with the EPA thing that he did with the greenhouses, that's going to cause a lot of people to die or get sick. I'm asthmatic, and it's going to, the toxins that are going to be allowed to be emitted in the atmosphere, that's going to affect a lot of people. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's the obligation of the federal government to protect people from harm. And one of the ways the federal government can do that is limit pollution in our air and our water and on our land. And when the federal government abdicates that responsibility, when it says, we don't care if greenhouse gases are pumped into the environment, we don't care if toxins are pumped into our water or deposited on our land, the outcomes for the American people are going to be negative. And as you say, some people are particularly sensitive. People who have asthma, for example, are particularly sensitive to air pollution. And that's going to take a real toll on those who struggle with diseases, respiratory diseases.
So is the Cook County going to be part of a lawsuit or something? We can't let him get away with this.
Well, usually it's our Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, who defends the state when we're assaulted like this. And he's been a party, I know, to dozens of suits against the federal government as they've attempted to withdraw resources from blue states.
Will you ask him to sue him?
I think that's already in the works.
Well, I hope so, because he is just doing so much damage. And I'm surprised that Riley hasn't said a peep about this. It affects his constituents too.
Of course. I mean, it's these assaults on programs that serve people who really need them impact people all over the county. They're not just concentrated in one area or another.
Right. And has he said anything about Sanctuary City being pro or against?
Well, he actually voted to weaken the Sanctuary City ordinance at the beginning of 2025, just before President Trump was sworn in. And President Trump, promised during the campaign mass deportation. So we knew it was coming from him. And even in the face of that, Alderman Riley voted to weaken the city's Sanctuary City protections.
I didn't know that. Okay, so that's terrible. But how has the Trump administration and everything that he has done, how has that affected your Cook County? How has that affected you financially?
Well, we put aside some money to insulate us a little bit from what we knew was coming. That is, the federal government's attempt to deny us resources. We put aside $320 million in reserves and $65 million in particular for protection of health care, because we knew that, and that's the way they started. They started with an effort to try to reduce federal support for health care, public health. So we've put aside some resources, and we know that we've got some belt tightening to do to meet the challenges that President Trump is going to put in front of us.
Has he recently cut any particular funds that would affect your budget?
Well, he's threatened to cut money for HIV and AIDS and programs that support the homeless. That's just in the last few days. So I think that Kwame Raoul is part of an effort by the attorneys general in the 4 states that are impacted to stop them from proceeding with these funding cuts. I know he's seeking a temporary restraining order to prevent that.
If you could talk to Trump, what would you tell him?
I can't imagine the circumstances that I would be in his company. Let me just say, though, if you have any doubt of what kind of person he is, all you have to do is look at the memes that he promulgated of the President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama.
Yeah. How do you feel about these, saying that they look like apes? I mean, I was so shocked. Even I was shocked that he would go along with something like that, and then kept the post up for 12 hours and only took it down because Republicans jumped all over him.
Yes, even members of his own party were critical of him. I think Senator Tim Scott from North Carolina called him out and said this was a racist trope. As I said, though, if you had any doubt of who he was and what he thinks, there's the evidence right there.
Well, and that's why I keep equating Riley, and I'll have him on if he comes on to explain why he's so pro-Trump when Trump is against most of us, and particularly if we're black or brown.
Yes, there's no doubt about that.
So what is the theme of your campaign?
Well, first of all, as I said earlier, I'm the only person in this race that has the courage and experience to stand up to Donald Trump, and that's what's critically needed in this moment. We have to have a leader who's willing to take on the president as he assaults our residents, whether it's physically creating terror in our immigrant communities and chaos in our immigrant communities, or whether it's withdrawing resources that are critical to people's basic needs. Healthcare is a human right, and the federal government ought to be supporting healthcare for all our residents. And the idea that the federal government is withdrawing support for food stamps, we're going to have more hungry children in this country. And it's hard to imagine a policy that could be more cruel than taking food out of the mouth of children. But there we are. This is the President of the United States.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more with Cook County Board President Cook County President Toni Preckwinkle. I was thinking about Stroger earlier, and we'll be back.
We'll talk a little bit about him when we come back. How's that?
Okay, fine. Thank you. We'll be back with more with Alderman right after this.
We are global transformers, changing the world from the way it is to the way it should be. We are one. Wherever we live on this earth, we are one human family. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to extend a greeting to all the members of our family, whenever and wherever you may be listening around the world. To our family in China, Ni Hao. In India, Namaste. In Japan, Konnichiwa. In Korea, Annyeonghaseyo. In Russia, Здравствуйте. In Germany, Guten Tag. In Poland, Dzień dobry. In France, Bonjour. In Spain, Hola. In Italy, Ciao. In Egypt, Ahlan wa sahlan. In Ghana, Akwaba. In Nigeria, Peleo. In South Africa, Sawubona. In Senegal, Nangadef. In Kenya, Jambo. In Israel, Shalom. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, Palestine, and Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, and may peace be upon you all. Join us live on the on-air radio network called 727-731-5192. We want to talk to you.
And we're back. I'm Chinta Strausberg, producer and host of On the Case. And my guest is Cook County Board President Toni Preckwinkle, a former 5-term alderman of the 4th Ward. She is also a former history teacher, and she is seeking her 5th term as president of Cook County Board. Thank you so much again, Madam President, for being on the case. I was thinking about the late John Stroger just a few hours ago. Ran across one of his pictures. And how did you meet him, by the way?
You know, John Stroger was a Cook County commissioner for a very long time. I think he got elected in 1968. And I worked for him early on in his campaigns for Cook County Board. And after I was elected alderman, he ran for president of the county board, and I supported him in that race. So I was a friend and supporter for decades, and I'm proud of that fact. You know, John really believed in public health. That was his principal legacy, his commitment to public health, to the healthcare system. And he insisted that the county spend money to build a new Cook County hospital, and we desperately needed it. But it wasn't very well received in the business community. The Chicago Tribune and other media outlets were, very, very critical of spending this amount of money. And it was hundreds of millions of dollars, but spending this money basically to provide care to people at the margins. But John insisted that we not only deliver quality care, but we do it in a quality facility. And I think it's only appropriate that Cook County Hospital is now named after John Stroger. It's Stroger Hospital.
Right, I covered that. That was an interesting meeting. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about the taxes, the property taxes. People want to blame you, but you're not responsible for that, right?
Well, first of all, let me just say, Cook County has had balanced budgets for 15 years. And for 15 years, we have not raised property taxes. Cook
Okay.
County government has not raised property taxes. We have gotten bond rating upgrades each of the last 4 years. Our pensions are funded at about twice the level of the city and the state. So we're in great financial shape. And again, we have not raised property taxes in 15 years, and we haven't raised any taxes in almost a decade. But let me tell you what the challenges are in Illinois. You know, of all of the states in the country, we're one of the states that is most reliant on property taxes. So other states have other sources of revenue, whether it's income taxes or sales taxes, but we're really reliant on property taxes more than other places. We also have more units of government than any other state in the country. So we've got lots of small units of government, and they're not very efficient. It's expensive to run them. You know, library boards, park district boards, lighting districts, sanitary districts, in addition to all of our cities, towns, and villages. And in Cook County alone, most people pay taxes, property taxes, to 6 to 10 units of government. So we're over-reliant on property taxes, and we have lots and lots of small units of government that aren't very efficient. Now, in last year in the fall, we went to Springfield to try to raise, and we were successful, raise the income limits for people who are seniors to get a senior freeze on their property taxes. You get a homestead exemption, a senior exemption, and a senior freeze if you're income eligible. And we raised that ceiling because it hadn't been raised for quite some time, and because of inflation, fewer seniors were eligible. And we also pushed back the time when the property tax bills would be due in 2026 because we knew there would be delays in 2025 to April 1st rather than March 1st. But in the long run, you know, the only thing we can really do here that's going to make an impact is to grow the economy. We have to invest more in economic development. And in Cook County, we help with senior housing projects. We help with affordable housing projects for families. We've started supporting organizations that provide services to the homeless. We've bought facilities so that they can have transitional housing for people who are unhoused. With Connections for the Homeless in Evanston and Housing Forward in Oak Park, and we're working with Beds Plus in the Southland to see if we can find buildings that the county can buy and then turn over to these not-for-profits to run as transitional housing. But we also have to make some big bets on the economy. We've put money into our rail infrastructure. Cook County is the rail hub of the nation. 5 of the 6 largest railroads in the country come through Cook County. And with the federal government and the state government and with the railroads, we supported a bridge that decongested traffic. We have north, south, and east-west railroads running through Cook County, and there was an intersection, a T intersection of the north, south, and east-west trains. And we built a bridge, a flyover, so we could decongest that traffic so that north-south trains didn't have to wait for the east-west trains and so forth. And we put a lot of money into quantum computing, which may drive the economy in the future in the same way that Silicon Valley drives the economy in California. We've invested in the quantum computing campus that's on the southeast side of the city of Chicago. So the long-term solution to our property tax challenges is investing in economic development and growing our economy.
And what about the food, not food giveaways, but growing food? Is the county involved in starting community groups that grows food?
Well, we have 2 obligations as president of the county board and commissioners. One is county government itself, and the other is the forest preserve. And our forest preserves are 70,000 acres in Cook County. And one of the institutions that we partner with and that sits on forest preserve land is the Chicago Botanic Garden. And you may know that they are doing a lot of work with urban gardening and encouraging communities to look at urban gardening as a way to have fresh vegetables in your home. So the Chicago Botanic Garden is focused on working with community groups around community gardening and fresh food. That's not exactly the focus of Cook County government. Our focus is healthcare and nutrition. We run food pantries out of some of our clinics to provide people with access to healthy food. But we're not part of the sort of grow your own network. That's more the Chicago Botanic Garden.
Okay, I didn't know about the food pantries. That's where are they located?
Well, one is in Belmont Cragen at the clinic there, and the other is at Provident Hospital.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay, that's good news. All right, so tell me, what are your plans for when you win the selection?
We've got to figure out how to insulate ourselves as much as we possibly can from the damage that Trump is trying to inflict on us.
Yeah.
Our health and hospital system is half our budget. Last year, in anticipation of Trump's assaults, Dr. Eric Makaitis, who heads up our health and hospital system, instituted 10% cuts so that the hospital system would be more efficient and better able to withstand any of the challenges that Trump put in front of us. And we're going to have to continue to look at efficiencies across county government as resources are challenged or resources are withdrawn by the federal government. So we got some work to do.
Okay, sounds like a lot of work to do. And then, what are your other goals? I know you have more than one or two.
Well, let me just talk
Be
about some of
very
the things that,
exclusive here.
let me talk about some of the programs that I'm most proud of. You know,
Right.
half our budget is healthcare. Half our budget is healthcare. And I believe that healthcare is a human right. And we not only provide healthcare to people, but we also insure people through our Medicaid managed care insurance program called County Care, which you may have heard of. So we provide care directly, and we provide insurance to people to get care wherever they choose to get it. And our County Care network has more than 130 community-based clinics, academic hospitals, and safety net hospitals in it. So I'm proud of the good work that we're doing in both those arenas. And let me just say, Provident, we talked about a little earlier as a site of a food pantry. Provident was named one of the top general hospitals in the country for 2 years in a row. So at 24 and 25, Provident Hospital was named one of the best hospitals, one of the best general hospitals in the country. And at Stroger Hospital, our emergency room staff trains Navy medics. We have a partnership with Great Lakes Naval Training Center, and we train medics for the Navy. So we run first-rate institutions, and I'm very proud of them. But it's also important that we try to deal with other aspects of the healthcare challenge, and one of those is medical debt. We've eliminated medical debt for 600,000 Cook County residents, more than 10% of the population, and eliminated $800 million in medical debt with just $6.5 million. So how do we do that? Health and hospital systems, doctors' practices, sell their uncollected debt to collection agencies for pennies on the dollar. And so we intervened, and we worked with a not-for-profit organization that's done this work across the country to buy the medical debt from these systems and then to wipe it out for folks. So 600,000 Cook County residents have had their medical debt wiped out as a result of this program, medical debt elimination. I'm very proud of it.
Was that your idea?
Well, you know, it was something that was brought to me by some of the younger people on my staff. Mara Hennigan and Nish Didakabi, younger staff people, as we looked at how we were going to spend the $1 billion that the federal government gave us to recover from the pandemic. We spent a year planning rather than just moving ahead with sort of one-off projects. We spent a year planning what were the best ways to use the resources. One of the things we came up with was this medical debt elimination. Another was a guaranteed basic income program. Now, we've tried lots of things to help people at the margins in this country, but rarely have we helped them just by giving them more resources, more money. And this is not a new idea. Martin Luther King in the 1960s talked about a guaranteed basic income.
Yeah.
So in the 1960s, Martin Luther King was talking about this. And we put a program together. 230,000 people in Cook County applied. 230,000 people. We could only support 3,250 in our pilot program. So for 2 years, 3,250 people got $500 a month extra, supplement their income. And what we found, although the University of Chicago is still reviewing the outcomes, we found is that people use the money like everyone else did for housing and food and education for themselves and their families. But we're going to look more carefully at the results of the academic review and then tweak the program and make it a permanent part of Cook County government.
It sounds great. What about the gun violence that has a big dent in your budget, in your hospital budget? How do you feel about that?
Well, we're impacted by the violence in lots of different ways.
Yes.
Surely in our healthcare system, it's very expensive to treat people with gunshot wounds. Very expensive, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And cruelly, it costs more to treat gunshot victims if they survive than if they die, because often they have debilitating challenges that result from their injuries that they carry with them for the rest of their lives. We've focused on violence, and I want to say violent crime is down, not just in Cook County, but across the country.
Right.
But in Cook County, in the last 4 years, murders are down 50%. Murders are down 50%. We've invested $200 million in community-based organizations to help with violence prevention. So people who are out in the street, violence interrupters, trying to tamp down violence when something terrible happens. People who work with young people who are justice involved youth. People who work with people who are coming out of jail or prison to help them turn their lives around. Organizations that support people who are victims of gun violence to help them with wraparound services. And we've also made investments in behavioral health, because we know when people are mentally well, they're less likely to be involved in the criminal justice system. So we've made $200 million in the last 4 years investments in community-based solutions to violence prevention. In the last decade, we've also almost doubled the budgets of our public safety elected officials. The chief judge, the sheriff, the state's attorney, the public defender, the clerk of the court. The budget has gone from $1 billion to $1.8 billion so that they're staffed up and have the technology that they need to do their jobs. So I'm very proud of the fact that in line with national trends, violent crime is down in Cook County. And on top of the national trend, we're doing even better. We're doing even better than the national trends. And as I said, in Cook County, in the last 4 years, murders are down 50%. Violent crime is down considerably.
Right, and that's why I don't understand why Trump sent the ICE agents to Chicago in the first place. And the same thing with D.C. and in Minneapolis, when crime was down. So what's
Well,
the
this is just a ruse. It's an excuse that he uses, as I said, to bring terror and chaos to communities, blue states, blue cities, blue counties across the country. He started out in Los Angeles, you may recall, with these massive infusions of ICE and Border Patrol agents, and then came here and then to Minneapolis.
Absolutely. And I understand you had a huge press conference with the ministers. Tell me about that.
Well, I'm very grateful to our ministerial outreach staff, in particular to Reverend Leslie Sanders, who brought together faith leaders from across the county. And I really appreciate, this was last week, I really appreciate their support, their good wishes, their prayers. I'm very grateful for their endorsements.
And what about who else has endorsed you so far?
Well, I've been endorsed by working families, by labor unions, the Chicago Federation of Labor, healthcare advocates, immigration rights organizations, environmentalists, Governor Pritzker, the Speaker of the House, Chris Welch, and the President of the Senate, Don Harmon, among others. And I'm very grateful for those endorsements.
Absolutely. And what about seniors? Do you have special program for seniors?
Well, in our Bureau of Economic Development, we support senior housing. One of the areas that we have historically supported is senior housing developments. We also support affordable housing for working families, but our senior initiatives are really focused around the construction and support of senior buildings.
Okay, and what about youth? What are you doing for the youth?
Well, much of our youth programming is through our Justice Advisory Council, helping young people who find themselves involved in the criminal justice system find a better path and a way out of the challenging situations they may find themselves in. And most recently, we've been working with the state's attorney. Young people accused of felonies are sent not to the Juvenile Temporary Detention Center, but to community-based organizations that provide them with wraparound services. So behavioral health services, employment, a variety of options for them, academic support, to try to help them kind of stabilize their lives and move in a different direction. So I'm very grateful to the state's attorney for her willingness to work with us for justice involved youth and to help them find a better path.
That sounds good. Are you also working with the schools? Because I get press releases, of course, from the police department, and sometimes children as young as 10 and 11 are arrested and charged with felonies because of guns. Why not work with the schools as well? Or can
Well,
you?
most of the work that we do through our Justice Advisory Council is with community-based organizations.
Mhm.
And those organizations have relationships with local public schools. But we support the community-based organizations in their work. That's the way that goes.
Okay. All right. All right. So what else are you going to be doing when after? And by the way, early voting is in progress. Are you pushing that, or can you do that?
Sure. The clerk, Monica Gordon, the clerk of the county, is responsible, of course, for elections in suburban Cook County. The city of Chicago has its own board of elections, but we always encourage people to vote early, to be sure that they get it done. And early voting has started. There are early voting sites now across the county that would enable people to cast their ballot before March 17th, primary day.
Right. And Trump is against he's trying very, very hard to get rid of mail-in ballots. How do you feel about that? I know he lost Fulton County in Georgia because of the mail-in votes, because that's the most popular type of voting African Americans usually use, and he wants to get rid of that. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think, if we're going to have democratic elections, we need to make it easy for people to vote. And, there was a time when the only day in which you could vote was primary day. And then we started early voting, mail-in ballots. All of these make it possible for more people to cast their votes, and that's a good thing. And it's not what Donald Trump wants. He wants the franchise limited. He wants to try to be sure that people he believes would be Democrats have as much trouble voting as possible.
Well, I don't know. The man is amazing. I mean, not amazing, but he just every single day there's something new, and particularly about our civil rights. It's very troubling, very, very troubling. And to try to, and what about his saying that he wants to nationalize, Republicans should nationalize voting? And he's serious about this.
Right. Well, it's a way to control the ballot and to limit access to the ballot, which has always been the goal of this part of the Republican Party. Make it as hard as possible for people to vote. And, elections have always been local in this country, run by local elected officials, local volunteers. And that has been one of the strengths of our country. And I hope that continues.
Yeah, because we've had voter suppression for many, many years. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more of Cook County Board President Stroger. There I go again, thinking about my good friend, Cook County Board President Toni Preckwinkle. I don't know why Stroger's on my mind. We'll be back with more right after this.
Soulful Chicago Black History Book Fair.
Hey family, this is Charles Humphrey of MCH Publishing, and I'm here with Ashada, and we at the Soulful Chicago Book what?
This is the Soulful Chicago Black History Book Fair, slamming.
We getting down in Hyde Park. Just run it down, my sister. Just tell us, for the people, a little bit about what we're doing here today and why.
This is the Soulful Chicago Black History Book Fair, and this month is very important. I feel like we don't give it the type of recognition that it needs. But beyond that, I do all things literary, and we have so many ancestors that have taken the tradition of writing and done great things. Well, we have those of us that are carrying on that tradition, and nobody knows about them until now. So the Soulful Chicago Black History Book Fair is allowing us to tell our stories according to ourselves for our own benefit. And it's just beautiful. I mean, she could have been here today if you wasn't here, but if you were, oh, it's been amazing. People came in consistently, children, and we have children's authors, we have nonfiction authors, we have fiction authors. This is really good. And it's about taking our own power in our own hands and doing what we do on the literary tip, though.
Right.
I got to work, but I can't help it. Everything going too smooth. Now I just about bring my African shit like this. Bring in the African shit.
We're back. I'm Chinta Strausberg, producer and host of On the Case. My very special guest is Cook County Board President Toni Preckwinkle, who is running for her 5th term as head of the board. And so, do you have groups like women's group or youth group working with your campaign?
Well, let me talk about Cook County government. We have a women's commission, and I am very grateful for their good work. And we have an annual breakfast honoring women of distinction across the county in March, which is Women's History Month. And we have an advisory council of young folks from MICFA Challenge that help us with our criminal justice reform related work. So MICFA Challenge, which is an organization that is focused on civic engagement for young people,
Yep.
Brings together every year a cohort of young people who advise us on criminal justice policy for young people. So I'm very grateful to them and to the members of the Women's Commission for their good work as well. But, I wanted to talk a little bit more about health care. Historically, Cook County had provided physical health care. We didn't do much for behavioral health, for mental health. And in the pandemic, it became really clear that we needed to focus more on behavioral health as well, because so many people were devastated by the isolation of the pandemic and depressed and anxious and not in a good place. And so we've put $44 million of our American Rescue Plan Act money, again, the money that came from the federal government to help us deal with the effects of the pandemic, into behavioral health services. So we have now a behavioral health department at Cook County Health, which we didn't have before, shame on us. And we also have given out grants to community-based organizations that focus on behavioral health in our neighborhoods, in our communities. And that's extraordinarily helpful because we need not just physical health support, but also behavioral health. So I'm grateful to our health and hospital system for moving in that direction. And as I said earlier, we've focused on not just the provision of care and insuring people, but eliminating medical debt. 600,000 people in Cook County had $800 million of medical debt eliminated as a result of the county medical debt elimination program. And I'm very proud of that.
And so how does, if someone has a huge medical bill, how does one get in touch with Cook County to help them erase that?
Well, this is not a program that requires any application. We have made agreements with various healthcare providers, so health and hospital systems, to have them sell their medical debt to our not-for-profit provider, and then the county wipes it out. So it's not a program that you have to apply for. Just when healthcare systems agree to work with us, they sell their medical debt, uncollected medical debt, to us rather than collection agencies, and then we wipe it out. And as I said, 600,000 people in Cook County, more than 10% of our population, have had their medical debt eliminated.
That is an achievement. That is, is there any other county that has done that? Or is
well, the state of Illinois picked up on the program after we started doing it, and they are now also partners with us in this medical debt elimination program. So I'm very grateful to Governor Pritzker for his good work in this arena as well.
Has he endorsed you?
Yes, Governor Pritzker, the Speaker of the House, Chris Welch, and the President of the Senate, Don Harmon, are all supporting me.
That's great. That's great. So tell me something new that you're going to be doing after the election.
Well, let me talk about some of the things we've done, which we'll continue to do, and that's supporting small businesses. Small businesses are the backbone of our neighborhood real estate development, retail strips. And during the pandemic, we saw that small businesses were really suffering. And so we decided that we had to develop programs to support them and support the organizations, the business service organizations that support small business networks. So we've been working with the Chicago Urban League and the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, for example, business service organizations, BSOs, giving them money to build their capacity and also giving them resources so they can support the small businesses in the communities they serve. So I'm very grateful to our Bureau of Economic Development for putting this program together and for enabling us to be involved for the first time in supporting small businesses. And over the last 4 years, we've put $67 million into supporting our small business ecosystem.
Well, that's good. And small businesses are under attack because of the robberies. It really is troubling to me because my grandfather had 8 businesses, and besides his mini real estate, but I can't imagine that happening back then. It didn't happen back then. So is there anything the county can do to help protect the small business people from these robberies, senseless robberies?
Well, let me just say, nationally, violent crime is down.
Right.
Nationally, violent crime is down. And in Cook County, not only is violent crime down, but murders are half of what they were 4 years ago. So the murder rate number of murders has gone down 50% in the last 4 years. And I want to credit the community-based organizations that the state and the county and the city have been funding for their good work in our neighborhoods. In the communities, the 34 communities where we've made investments in violent prevention, shootings are down 60%. So we've seen a really significant decrease, not just in violence, but in murders and shootings in the communities where we've made investments. And I'm proud of that fact. I'm not a police officer. I'm not a law enforcement officer. And I can't tell you specific strategies for protecting small businesses. But, I would suggest that if you ask the Chicago Superintendent of Police to come on your program and talk about the ways in which the Chicago Police Department is trying to address this concern.
I already put in my request for that too. Thank you very much on that. So what else can you tell us about why people should vote for you, President Stroger? There I go again, President Preckwinkle.
Well, let me begin again. President Trump has declared war on us.
Yes.
He's declared war on us. And we've seen the terror and the chaos that he's been inflicting on our communities. We've seen that he's attempting to reduce the federal commitment to health care for our residents, for food and nutrition programs, for programs to help people with HIV and AIDS. He is a very cruel man. I mean, why would you, as President of the United States, when you have the power to help so many people, why would you make it your business to see that more children are hungry? It's unfathomable to me. I have the courage to stand up to him and the experience to run county government effectively, and I'm proud of that fact.
I'm sure you are. And so tell me a little bit more. We have a little bit more time.
Well, one of the things that we have done, one of the ways in which we've been a little different from my predecessors is we put a lot of focus on the forest preserves. The forest preserves of Cook County are 70,000 acres, 70,000 acres, originally constructed to be an emerald ring around the city of Chicago. But the forest preserves are not simply recreational spaces. They're carbon sinks. They purify the water, they purify the air. We have forests and prairie and watersheds, lakes, rivers in our forest preserves. They're great places for people to go walking, biking, camping. One of the things we've done in my tenure is build campgrounds in the forest preserves. So you can go to the forest preserves and be in an environment that's like Wisconsin or Michigan, just minutes from your own house. We have cabins for camping. You can do tent camping. You can bring your RV, your recreational vehicle, to our forest preserves. They're a wonderful resource for folks. And we have nature centers, campgrounds, lots of biking, hiking trails, lakes to fish, lakes and rivers to fish. They're a wonderful resource for the people of Cook County. And when I came into office, they were kind of a patronage dumping ground. And I want to thank Arnold Randall, who was a superintendent of our forest preserves for more than a decade, for his good work. And frankly, that work was so impressive that the people of Cook County in 2024 voted to raise their taxes to support the forest preserve, so we could buy more land and engage in more ecological restoration of the land we already had. So I'm proud of the fact that the forest preserves are not only a wonderful resource for the people of Cook County, but folks believe in them so much that they voted to raise their taxes to support them.
Okay, and how can the county healthcare system work more harmoniously with the holistic health community, emphasizing things like exercise and nutrition early in life rather than medication later in life?
Well, as I said, two of our outpatient clinics at Provident Hospital and Belmont Cragen have food pantries. And, we have a saying in Cook County Health: food is medicine. If you are able to get fresh fruits and vegetables, you'll be healthier than if you live in a food desert. And so we are trying in our healthcare system to promote good nutrition and to assist people through our own pantries, as well as giving people the opportunity to visiting pantries from the Greater Chicago Food Depositories, which sometimes their trucks sometimes come to our clinics on certain days of the week to provide nutritious food for people. So we have a good working relationship with the Greater Chicago Food Depository. We have pantries in our own clinic, and we always talk about food as medicine. So we're focused on good nutrition as an important component of good general health.
And also, are you into building houses too?
Well, one of the things that we've started to do is focus on modular housing. We know there's a tremendous need for not only affordable rental housing, but for sale housing as well. And one of the ways in which we're trying to increase the supply of affordable for sale housing is working with a not-for-profit called Inherent, which builds modular housing. They're working with the Land Bank and our Bureau of Economic Development to create housing in the Humboldt Park, Westtown area, and they hope to be moving to other communities in the county with the construction of their modular housing. And David Doig and CNI, which is the Chicago Neighborhood Initiatives, are working in the Pullman community to do modular housing development. So there are two parts of the city of Chicago within the county, West Humboldt Park, Westtown, and Pullman, in which we're supporting modular housing developments to dramatically increase the supply of affordable for sale housing.
And you've heard about the little houses. I forget the technical term for it. It's a little house that they build for seniors and other people.
It's a tiny house movement.
Tiny house movement.
Yeah, this is an effort to provide single family homes for people who are presently unhoused. We're not part of that movement, but it's something I'm aware of. What we have been doing, as I said earlier, is working with existing organizations that provide services to the unhoused, Connections to the Homeless in Evanston, Housing Forward in Oak Park. We bought facilities for them. Often these organizations deliver programs, but they don't have the capital to buy a building and turn it into transitional housing. So the county did that for them. In Evanston and Oak Park, we bought buildings and turned them over to not-for-profit organizations that serve the homeless so that they can have transitional housing for the people that they serve. And we're working with Beds Plus and other actors in the Southland, the South suburbs, to try to create more transitional housing for the unhoused in that part of the county as well.
Okay.
So that's our response. We're trying to find facilities that we can buy and turn over to providers of services to the homeless, to the unhoused, so that they can operate these as transitional housing.
Okay, and also I understand that you have a department where you can teach people how to rehab buildings and then sell them.
Well, there's the Cook County Land Bank, which is
That's
an organization, a part of the county, part of our economic development initiatives. And they take abandoned properties and vacant land and work with community-based developers to rehab the buildings or to build new on the vacant land. And I'm very grateful for the work of the Land Bank. They've been in existence about a decade. They've brought about 2,400 parcels back onto the tax rolls, and those parcels now contribute more than $7 million to the property tax rolls. But they've also created jobs for people who are doing the rehab work and have had a real impact in the communities in which they've engaged in this work. Because if you have an abandoned building on your block, it reduces the value of everybody's property by 10%. And two houses abandoned on a block decrease everybody's property values by 20%. So it's really important that we bring back onto the tax rolls and rehab the vacant buildings, the vacant homes and buildings that are in our communities.
Do you have many vacant homes in Cook County?
I can't tell you the magnitude of the problem, but you know that and you've probably driven or gone through some of the neighborhoods in the city where there are a lot of abandoned homes, and it's discouraging to the residents who live there, and we know that, as I said, it has an economic consequence for the homeowners who do live on the block.
Absolutely. We have on the line Deborah Smith. Deborah, you're talking to Cook County Board President Toni Preckwinkle.
Yes. Thank you. Oh, I am so appreciative for the opportunity to come onto this platform, Chinta, for you having your honorable guest, President. Yes, I can say President in honor of someone, President Toni Preckwinkle, and all of the tireless work that you've done over the years. I've been in the Chicagoland, Cook County all my life, and I've seen what has happened, what has transpired, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Deborah. I'm grateful for your encouragement and appreciate your good wishes. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I know you'll win. I'm so, you should see me fussing at the commercials when I hear the storytelling that they portray against you. I say she wasn't even in that department back then.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's hilarious, but I truly appreciate it. I echo that with many other folks that weren't able to get on the call. So happy wishes to everyone. Thank you.
And
thank you for the encouragement.
Thank you for your call, Deborah. So we only have like 3 minutes to go, and I really want you to address again this issue that Riley has said that you raised property taxes.
Well, we've had 15 years of balanced budgets, Chinta, 15 years of balanced budgets. 15 years we have not raised property taxes in Cook County. Now, your property taxes have gone up, but not because Cook County government has raised your property taxes. And each year for the last 4 years, we've got an upgrade in our bond rating. So that's a good housekeeping seal of approval for your finances. So I'm very grateful to the cooperation of our Board of Commissioners. Again, balanced budgets for 15 years. We haven't increased property taxes. We've gotten bond rating credit upgrades for each of the last 4 years. And our pensions are about twice as well funded as the cities or the state, and they're on a path to full funding. So, I always say your first obligation as an executive is to manage the finances well, and I think we've really done that. And I'm grateful, as I said, for the cooperation of our Board of Commissioners to make that happen.
All right. And we have Susan Carlotta, and she is asking, please explain why so many property owners are being erroneously fined by Streets and Sanitation for having weeds 10 inches or higher when in fact they have a garden enclosed by a fence.
Well, Streets and Sanitation is the city of Chicago, and I'm afraid that I'm unfamiliar with their operations and their rules and regs. So you'll have to address that to one of your city guests in a future program.
Absolutely. We got like 30 seconds left. Why should people vote for you?
I'm the only candidate in this race that has the courage to stand up to Donald Trump and the experience running county government. I'm grateful for your help and support. I always say that In a democracy, the greatest honor your fellow citizens can bestow upon you is elective office. I'm very grateful for the past support I've received, and I hope for your support in my reelection on March 17th. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Cook County Board President Toni Preckwinkle. Thank you so much for being on the case, and good luck in the race for your 5th term.
Thank you, Chinta.
You're welcome.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, ngiyabonga. Senegal, jareh. Kenya, asante. Israel, toda. Pakistan, shukriya. Afghanistan, tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.